Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, that Supreme Brahman is infinite, and this conditioned Brahman is infinite. The infinite conditioned Brahman proceeds from this infinite Supreme Brahman. Then, through knowledge, realizing the infinitude of the infinite conditioned Brahman, it remains as the infinite unconditioned Brahman alone. Om, peace, peace, peace. This is the translation of this very profound peace chant. This translation by Swami Gambhirananda ji. All right. We are studying the Isha Upanishad, and we have seen in the last few classes, I think 2 classes we did, on the first mantra, which is very important. Om Ishavasyam idagam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagata tena tyaktena bhunjitha magridhakasya svidhanam. Om, all this, whatsoever moves on the earth, should be covered by the Lord. Protect yourself through that detachment. Do not covet anybody's wealth, or do not covet for whose is wealth. So this is the first mantra. And in the first class, I pointed out the importance of this mantra and spoke in general about the mantra, sort of freely. And in the second class, last week, we looked at Adi Shankaracharya's famous commentary, Bhashya, on this Upanishad, on the first mantra. And we saw the way in which he interpreted the mantra. We saw it means that this world of tremendous diversity, there is an underlying oneness, underlying reality here. So cover all our experiences of the world, cover this world with God. What do you mean cover this world with God? When you investigate, you will find that God alone exists. God alone is appearing as this world. This world is an appearance, God alone is the reality. That means covering everything by God means not that there is a world and some like putting a cloth over the world, you put God over the world, sort of by some positive affirmation, force yourself or brainwash yourself into thinking, oh, it's all God, it's all God. No. The meaning is to uncover the already existing reality. And how do you uncover that? I said it is discover. We saw how Shankaracharya gives the example of the sandalwood in the temple, which was kept under water, and its natural fragrance seems to be lost, and there seems to be a bad odor which comes because of its contact with water. And then what do you do? You scrub that. You don't spray sandalwood fragrance on top of it. You scrub it, remove the layer which was causing the bad odor, and then the fragrance will come back. And the fragrance is already there. It's the very natural fragrance of sandalwood. Like that, Shankaracharya compares this world of appearances, this samsara, to the bad odor. He says, if you, this is not the natural state of reality which we are living in. It is a false appearance based on error. This error is based on our ignorance. It's a false appearance, it's an error based on our ignorance. And what is this bad odor? This is the unhappiness, misery, strife, struggle, dissatisfaction, suffering that we go through in this world. How can that be removed? By seeing the reality. What is the reality? When we investigate, we find this world, apparently this world of differences, is actually one reality. This world of struggle and strife is actually one limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, and you are that. We are not these bodies which are born, will die. We are not even the minds which are continuously changing. We are the unborn and undying, the changeless one consciousness or one Brahman. This we will discover. And then will come the peace, the fulfillment, which is like the natural fragrance of sandalwood. It will manifest. It's already there, it just has to manifest. And the way to do that is to realize that it is all one Brahman, one existence, consciousness, bliss. This one divinity underlying all differences. This is the teaching of Vedanta. Swami Vivekananda also has said, the divinity within ourselves and the oneness of all existence. That is Vedanta. Now, so this is the meaning of the first line. Ishavasya sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Um, cover all this by the Lord. Whatever is moving and unmoving in this world, cover all this by the Lord. Whatever is changing has to be covered by the unchanging reality, unchanging divine reality. Then the next line, Tena tyaktena bhunjitha. If you literally translate it, it means protected by renunciation. Shankaracharya's interpretation. Now, protected by renunciation means this knowledge which you have got, I am Brahman, all of this is Brahman. Now, you don't have to protect Brahman or protect the self, because Brahman cannot be harmed. The self actually cannot be harmed. Even in samsara, even when you're in samsara going through birth and death, the real self never dies. It's not actually, it's never destroyed. So it's always there. It cannot be destroyed. However, what we need to protect is the knowledge. So this knowledge, he says, you live a life of renunciation. And Shankaracharya is very clear about this, that renunciation of worldly desires is the way to live this knowledge. To realize this and to manifest it in life is to give up worldly desires, the desires of bhoga in this world. So whatever motivates ordinary people, one should rise above that. And here is clearly indicating sannyasa, becoming a monk, a renunciant. That is, according to Shankaracharya, the right way to protect this knowledge, to live this knowledge, to manifest this knowledge. The right way, the best manifestation of this knowledge is the monastic life, our life of renunciation, actually renouncing inwardly and outwardly. At least that seems to be implied by Shankaracharya's commentary. We will see a little later today that there are other interpretations possible. And then he says, Kasyas with dhanam. Literally, if you translate, it means for whose is wealth. Ma gridha kasyas with dhanam. Do not covet for whose is wealth. And Shankaracharya gives two interpretations of this. He says, do not covet anything. Do not desire anything, because, first of all, whom does it all belong to? It does not belong to any one of us. The whole universe belongs to the Lord, to Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. None of it, including our own bodies, minds, the people around us, the wealth that we own, the knowledge that we have in our minds, our achievements, whatever it is, it all belongs to Saguna Brahman, Ishvara or Bhagavan, not to us. So do not covet. Shankaracharya says, whose is wealth? Do not covet. The first interpretation is, do not covet anyone else's wealth. That is, of course, straightforward. But even yours, because you are a renunciant, you should not own. You should not own. It's certainly internally, and if you are actually a monk, externally also, you should not own wealth or property. The second interpretation Shankaracharya gives is, there is no wealth to covet, because what you see as the world is an appearance. The reality is Brahman. It's like trying to covet or own the appearances in a movie. In a movie, whatever you see in the movie, it actually is not there. What is there is the screen. Similarly, what is there actually is Brahman. It is not property, wealth, popularity, power. All of these are appearances. There is no wealth to covet, because Jagat Mithya, the world is an appearance. So this is Shankaracharya's interpretation. Now I told you there are different interpretations and there are controversies regarding the multiple interpretations. I will go into Swami Vivekananda's interpretation today. But before that, one more little further, we must take our study of Shankaracharya's interpretation so that the contrast will be clear. We will enter into the second mantra, and then go to Swami Vivekananda's interpretation. The second mantra, remember this Upanishad has 18 mantras. The second mantra is Kurvanneveha karmani jijivishet shatagam samaha Evam tvai nanyatheto asti na karma lipyate nare. By doing karma, indeed, should one wish to live here for 100 years. For a man such as you, who wants to live thus, there is no other way than this, whereby karma may not cling to you. So Adi Shankaracharya, first of all, the mantra here says, live for 100 years, live a long life, be active, do all sorts of activities, continue living in this way. Otherwise, there is no other way in which you can escape the clutches of karma. In no other way you can rise above the law of karma. What is the meaning of this? Here is a point of departure, you will see. First of all, let us see how Shankaracharya introduces this verse, this mantra. Shankaracharya summarizes the meaning of the first verse in these lines. I am reading from Shankara's introduction to the second mantra. Shankaracharya says, Evam atma vidaha putradyeshanatraya sanyasena atma jnana nishthataya atma rakshitavya ityesha vedarthaha. In this way, for the one who wants enlightenment, one who wants Brahma Jnana, realization that I am the Atman, I am Brahman, and attains moksha thereby, for such a person, the Upanishad is advising, take to monastic life. Putradi eshanatraya sannyasena. By sannyasa means renunciation, a life of renunciation. And he makes it much more clear. Putradi eshanatraya. So I will explain that later. By doing this, what will happen? Atma rakshitavya ityesha vedartha. The self is protected. Of course, the self, as I said, need not be protected. Brahman cannot be destroyed. But the knowledge which you want to gain, the knowledge which you want, after gaining, you want to live that knowledge, that is most easily attained through a life of renunciation, a monastic life. And so the Upanishad says, take up a monastic life if you want renunciation. What kind of monastic life is it? So he defines that monastic life also. Putradi eshanatraya. This is the idea of sannyasa, renunciation in traditional Advaita Vedanta, in traditional Vedanta, in traditional Hinduism also. It means giving up the threefold desire. The threefold desire. What is the threefold desire? Putreshana, Vitteshana, Lokeshana. If you literally translate that, desire for children, desire for wealth or property, and desire for the worlds, other worlds. This has to be interpreted in the Vedic context. Remember, all of this is the Vedic worldview one must understand. So the idea for the devout Vedic person who the Vedic Hindu, the idea of worldview was that I need a good human birth next life. After death, I need a good human birth when I am reborn again. How will I get that? Putrena, Manushya Lokaha. This is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. That by children, one earns the next life. What does that mean? There is a ritualistic meaning here, and you can give a general meaning also. The general meaning is very simple. You continue through your children. So this world, you continue to live through your children. That is why people have children. It's a form of immortality. It's not really immortality, of course, because the body will die, doesn't make any sense. But yes, but it is instinctive. One continues. So this world is continued by children. And it does not mean just giving birth to children. It also means educating them, giving them culture so that your civilization, your values and all of that can continue. So basically one gets the idea, this world is continued by children. But this is just the general meaning. This is not the deeper Vedic meaning. The deeper Vedic meaning is the child will hopefully, quote unquote, hopefully perform the shraddha, the rituals, the funeral rituals for the devout Hindu. By the punya, by the merit of that, the deceased person, the departed person, the parent or ancestors will get a human birth next time, a good human birth. So the Vedic meaning of this desire for progeny, desire for children, is the Vedic purpose of it. See, everything was related to the Vedic worldview. So even having a child, it means attaining to human birth, because the child will perform your funeral rituals, the shraddha. So you can get a human birth next time. This was the general idea. So two meanings. I've given you two meanings of why, from a Vedic perspective, why do you want a child? Why do you want a child? Ayam lokaha, manushya loka, this world of the human world. You will gain the human world through a child. How do you gain the human world through a child? One is the common sense that you continue in this world. Not only that, this world continues through children. How will a society continue? Through children. And not just giving birth to children, but educating them, giving them values and so forth, so that the civilization continues, your values continue, and so on. In fact, I was reading somewhere, Elon Musk, who is very much in the news these days, so in one place he has said, people think that overpopulation is the problem, but actually overpopulation is not the problem. The serious problem very soon many societies, especially advanced societies, will face is underpopulation. As people have less and less children, there won't be enough replacement. So old people will get older and die, and there are fewer children to replace them. Now you see, this is the basic idea. Your society will not continue unless you have children. So it's literally true. This world is maintained. This society, this civilization will be maintained through children. Yes, that's one meaning. The second meaning I said is the Vedic meaning. The children will ensure you get a human birth next life. That is one desire, central desire for human beings. Allied to that is marriage, sexuality, all of these very powerful, important parts of human life are all allied to this. So this is one. Second, Vittaishana. So this is called Putraishana. Next, Vittaishana, the desire for wealth, accumulation, success. Again, there is a worldly meaning for this. All of our modern capitalist or post-capitalist society is powered by this. In fact, all societies are powered by the desire to accumulate, to become richer. So Vittaishana, a desire for wealth. But as I said, this is a Vedic context, and there is a deeper Vedic meaning for this. The deeper Vedic meaning for this is Vitta, wealth, translates into the devout Vedic person performing these rituals, and these rituals will result in, after death, this person, devout person who has performed these rituals, using his wealth to perform the rituals, will attain to heavenly life, Swargaloka. So this is the second meaning of Vittaishana. Vittaishana means desire for wealth. What is the purpose of wealth? Everything in the Vedic worldview, the purpose is religion, is rituals, is this world or the next world. So by children, you will get this world in the next birth. By wealth, through performance of Vedic rituals, one will get heaven after this death. So that's the second meaning. Why do people want wealth? You will say, we want wealth to get rich and have a great life here. Yes, that is the worldly goal. But the Vedic goal is not only that, you must use that wealth to perform religious rituals, and that will give you enough good karma, credit, to get into heaven after death. Then the third one, Lokeshana. Lokeshana literally here means the desire for the worlds. This world, the human world, or heavenly worlds. So we want these worlds. So basically, you see, these three things are there. These are actually ends and means. The end is human birth next life, and heaven after death. These are the two ends. And for that, the means are children and wealth in this life. So now you see three goals. And these are all very, in a sense of very Vedic kind of goals. And all of this, if you give up, this is not, Shankaracharya is not advising you to pursue this. People pursue it automatically. Now, if you give up all these, that is monasticism. That's why you will not pursue having children, marriage, sexuality. That's why you will not earn and accumulate money. That's why you will not perform Vedic rituals. That's why you give up the desire for rebirth. I don't want rebirth as a human being or any other being. I don't even want to go to heavens. As Vivekananda says, all heavens and hells and earths do I renounce. So, any future limited existence if you want to give up, if you want to be free, uh, end this cycle of birth and death, for that, sannyasa. So, this is Shankaracharya's worldview, very classical Advaitic worldview. This is sort of well understood. And he says, this is the message of the Upanishad, the first mantra. Then what is the meaning of the second mantra? The second mantra says, live 100 years, do all sorts of rituals here. I mean, it's only in this way you will escape from the clutches of karma. Now, what is Shankaracharya's interpretation of this? He says, Atha, therefore now, itarasya anatmagyataya atmagrahanaya ashaktasya idam upadishyati mantraha. For the rest of the people who do not want liberation, who don't want moksha, who are not fit for higher non-dual realization, who are not fit for sannyasa, then what should they do? Upanishads gives alternative. Second mantra is the alternative. First mantra, Vedanta. Realize you are Brahman. Be a monk and be free. Second mantra, if you can't do that, if you don't want it or you cannot do it, then come to Vedic ritualistic life. Lead a devout life, a moral life, a pious life in this world. Perform those. Have children, accumulate wealth, perform the rituals, have a good life here, go to heaven after death, reborn as human beings in a good birth after um, after heaven, after your reborning. Remember, all these heavens are also temporary. So now, this is the point I wanted to make. According to Shankaracharya, the first mantra, the goal is Atma-jnana, self-knowledge, realization. How? By sannyasa. You take up monastic life, then you have jnana nishtha. You spend a life of shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Study the Vedanta, meditate upon it, and reason upon it. Study, reason, meditate upon it. Like if you see Himalayan monks, that's what they do. And then this is called Atma Rakshana, protect the self. That means protect self-knowledge. This is the message of the first mantra. For those who are not on that track, he says Upanishad is giving you track 2. Track 2 is the life of Vedic ritualism. What will you get thereby? Will you get liberation, freedom from birth and death? No, no, no. Will you get enlightenment? No, no, no. What will you get? You will get a pleasant life here. You will get a pleasant life in heaven, and you will get further good human births to continue your spiritual journey. So these are the two alternatives. Now what Shankaracharya does is, he splits the entire Upanishad. He splits the entire Upanishad into two parts. Upanishad so he says, Mantra 1 and Mantra 2. Mantra 1 is one part of the Upanishad, which is explained in Mantra 1, which talks about self-realization and moksha, is explained in mantra number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. Seven, 8, and from 9 onwards till 18. So 9 onwards till 18, he talks about Vedic ritualism, Karma Kanda, a life of ritualistic action, a religious, pious life, not for Brahmajnana. You can say preparation for Brahmajnana, but for the time being, this world, heaven after death, and a good human birth afterwards. So he cleanly divides the Upanishad into two parts. First part is introduced by first mantra. First part is about self-realization and liberation. First mantra, and elaborated in mantra number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is taught there? What is the nature of Brahman? Who am I? All the usual non-dual things which we have been studying. Who am I? What is Brahman? And the nature of Brahman, that it is pure consciousness, all-pervasive existence, consciousness, all these things are spoken about. And then What will happen if you get enlightenment? What is the benefit? What will happen if we do not get enlightened in this life? What is the loss? And this is the topic of mantra number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From mantra number 9 onwards is the elaboration of mantra number 2, which is track 2. How to lead a pious, dharmika, householder life in this world. So he has made 2 tracks: self-knowledge, monastic life, sannyasa. The life of a pious householder, devout life in this world and attain the next world and the next life and so on. That is for the religious householder, the good dharmika householder. He has made these 2 tracks. This is how Shankaracharya interprets Isha Upanishad, divides it into 2 parts. And we will continue to do that. But now, a detour. We will go into, as I said, other interpretations. Now let us see Swami Vivekananda's interpretation. We will see some interesting differences. I remember when I first read this many years ago, I had read it earlier, but the difference had not come to my notice. When it came to my notice, I rushed to a very senior monk in our monastery, Swami Prabhanandaji Maharaj, who later became the vice president. He has passed on now. He was the general secretary of the order. And I said, Maharaj, here is this sharp difference between Shankara and Vivekananda on Īśopaniṣad. And he laughed and he said, you are noticing it only now, you're finding this one difference. I have found 11 interpretations. You have found only 2, Shankara and Vivekananda. I found 11 different interpretations. And well, when we get time, we can talk about this. But of course, he was very busy. We never did get time to talk about it. But that's the point. That's why I have left this Upanishad towards later. That's why we did even Mandukya, we did first, and then Katha Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Kena Upanishad. Now, so what does Swami Vivekananda say? Luckily, we have one whole lecture on the Ishopanishad here, and he's mentioned the Ishopanishad many times, but here's the lecture on Ishopanishad. This is called God in Everything, and it was delivered in London, 27th October 1896. God in Everything. Yeah, you can straight away see Ishavasya Idam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. This whole in everything is to be covered by God, so God in everything. Now, what does Vivekananda say? He starts off with the fact that there is sorrow, there is unhappiness in this world, and religion promises to solve this problem. Religion says the world is full of unhappiness. There is a solution to this problem. Theistic religions call it God, Allah, Bhagavan, and there is a place beyond sorrow, Swarga, heaven, whatever. Non-theistic religions like Buddhism will call it Nirvana, something beyond sorrow. So world full of sorrow, and there is a solution possible. There is the escape for freedom from sorrow and unhappiness. What is the way? Here is the problem. All religions will say renunciation. Tyaga, renunciation is the way. Some religions are out openly monastic, Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism part of it. Some religions are not monastic. They will say, definitely you can continue in worldly life, but every religion will put a limit, will put brakes on our enjoyment of the world. Every religion will say, pursuit of pleasure and power and success in the world is not the way to happiness. You have to renounce this pursuit. Every religion. No religion will say the way to become free from sorrow, way to attain great happiness, way to attain God is through lots of money. No. Or is through endless pleasure. No. Every religion will tell us to renounce in some way or the other. Now, Swami Vivekananda here gives the story. He says this is the problem. Problem is what? World is full of sorrow. There is a way to get out of sorrow, but you have to give up this world. But the problem is, this world is all we know. We know this world. And in this world, we have a problem in samsara. And it seems the solution is to give up what we know. You may talk about God or heaven, but those are just words which we are hearing. But this world is reality for us. Maybe full of sorrow. This world is reality. Now you're telling me to give up this world. This reality, the only reality I know. You may be a great person who is seeing some other reality, but I see this reality only. And what you are talking about, God, Brahman, Nirvana, Moksha, whatever you talk about, heaven, all those are theoretical for me. This world, which is so real to me, yes, problematic. You're saying the only way to solve the problem is to give up the whole world. He says it's like a story. He gives a story. It's like a man was sitting. He was getting bothered by a mosquito. His friend came and he said, "I will help you. I'll remove the problem." And he saw the mosquito sitting on the man's head, and he gave such a whack to the man's head. The mosquito died, but the man also died. So this is solve the problem. But this kind of solution, what is the use of this kind of solution? I have a world. I have a husband, wife, children. I have a community. I have certain goals in life, certain pleasures. Yes, certain pleasures are there in life, certain happinesses, certain things to look forward to, certain occupation, engagement in life. There are beauties of nature, art, music, all of these are there. You're telling me give up. Is it possible? Is it even desirable? So this is what Vivekananda says. And he says the solution is there in Isha Upanishad. So this is how he starts. So he says, this remedy seems to destroy everything. I'm quoting now. How can this be a remedy? So what is the real meaning behind spirituality? When they say renunciation, what does it really mean? Vivekananda says what we really want is head and heart combined. The heart is great indeed. It is through the heart that often great inspirations in life come. But we must understand the philosophy behind it. Reason must be there. Vivekananda says, I'm just quoting excerpts from it. I beg to state that in Vedanta alone we find a rational solution of the problem. We must keep the problem in mind. Sorrow, suffering, world on one side. All religions say solution is there. On the other side, God, heaven, moksha, nirvana, whatever. But in between is renunciation, giving up this world. And it seems almost impossible. Whether it is at all desirable, whether it's possible, all these questions come to mind. Vivekananda says solution is there. The deep solution is there. And he says, what is the solution? I can lay before you what Vedanta seeks to teach. And what is that? Deification of the world. The Vedanta does not in reality denounce the world. The ideal of renunciation nowhere attains such a height as in the teachings of the Vedanta. But at the same time, dry, suicidal advice is not intended. It really means deification of the world. Giving up the world as we think of it, as we know it, as it appears to us, and to know it as what it really is. Deify it. It is God alone. We read at the commencement of one of the oldest Upanishads, whatever exists in this universe is to be covered with the Lord. See, here is Īśopaniṣad. So this is the beginning of Swami Vivekananda's commentary on the Ishavasya. He shows this as what is the problem, what is our question? How can I be spiritual and be free while being in this world? How? Don't tell me I have to give it up. Renunciation is certain. Vivekananda says it's not that Vedanta does not teach renunciation. Vedanta teaches the highest renunciation. Vedanta is a spirituality of renunciation, of tyaga. But one must understand what renunciation, what is meant by renunciation. There is a very deep philosophy of renunciation here. It does not mean running away from the world. So he says, here is his interpretation. Ishavasya sarvam, covering everything by God, means deifying the universe. Whatever you experience in the world, whoever you experience in the world, whatever we do in the world, all of it is, you have to see God in that. It is God alone. Deify it. This is the meaning of renunciation. Then he goes on. We have to cover everything with the Lord himself. How? Not by a false sort of optimism, not by blinding our eyes to the evil, but by really seeing God in everything. As I said, Shankaracharya also says this, not by putting sandal paste, like fragrance on the foul-smelling block of sandalwood, but you have to discover the real fragrance of sandal, not covering it up. Thus, we have to give up the world, and when the world is given up, what remains? God. What is the meaning of this? You can have your wife. It does not mean you are to abandon her, but that you are to see God in the wife. Give up your children. What does that mean? To turn them out of doors, as some human brutes do in every country? Certainly not. That is diabolism. It is not religion. But see God in your children. So in everything. In life and in death, in happiness and in misery, the Lord is equally present. The whole world is full of the Lord. Open your eyes and see Him. That is what Vedanta teaches. So, not forcing yourself to think that it's all God, it's all God. No, no, no. Actually to discover God in this. And now you can already see the difference coming. Not that you have to give up your wife, not that you have to give up your children, not that if you give up your house. Practically, according to Shankaracharya, he gives strong advice is give it all up, become a monk. Putreshana, Vitteshana, Lokeshana. The desire, Eshana means a strong desire for progeny, for wealth, for other worlds. You have to give it up. Now, giving up the world, what does it mean? Vivekananda has said, giving up the world as we think of it, one, as we know it, two, and as it appears to us, three. How will you give it up? Physically? No, by your Vedantic understanding. He says here, what is this world which you are being asked to give up? Shankaracharya says, see, the world which we are being asked to give up, he says, it is based upon a very partial experience, upon very poor reasoning, and upon your own weakness. The world as we know it now, what seems to be the world, he says, this world is not the true world which exists. The truth which exists is Brahman. What we think is the world, he says, first of all, it's very partial experience. Our experience of the world is through five senses. And our understanding, which is coming based on the reports of these five senses. That's our experience of the world. Any other being with different senses will experience a different kind of world. And those who are spiritually advanced, they see other spiritual dimensions to this world, a much vaster universe which exists spiritually, which we don't have that experience. We have only a sensory experience, a very materialistic experience. So our experience of the world is also very partial. Our knowledge, he says, upon our knowledge is very partial, very limited. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, you and I both have had many births. I remembered them all. You don't. So that means our knowledge is very limited. How our knowledge would actually, how our attitude would change, how our understanding would change if we could actually remember all our lives, past lives. If that became clear to us, then we would know that, first of all, we would know that we are not the body then. This body, many bodies have come and gone. Not only that, we would know that this life is not the only life we have had, nor that we are going to have this life only. These are not the only people who are our own. So our whole worldview would dramatically change if we had just that much extra knowledge. Our knowledge is also very limited. Then he says, upon very poor reasoning, no reasoning actually. So reasoning starts when we start Jnana Yoga, when we start Vedanta. Otherwise, we don't reason upon our experience of the world. We just take it as it is. Even to do science, you have to question your own experience of the world. Common sense, as it appears, that's one thing. But even scientific investigation shows the real world is very different from what it appears to us. And also, very important, upon your own weakness. Third thing, Vivekananda says, this world which we are seeing now, it's based upon your own weakness. Our raga dvesha, what we want and what we fear, we see the world through those specs, through those glasses. We want the world to fulfill our desires. And we want to be protected from the troubles in the world. I think I'm quite clear I'm this body. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get hurt. And I don't want to die. So this shapes my view of the world. And I want pleasure. And I want success. I want appreciation. I want to continuously live in this body as a healthy person endlessly. All of these things, many of which are completely irrational. But these are our strong desires, and we're looking at the world through that. So our world, Vivekananda says, is constructed out of very limited knowledge, very limited experience, one. Out of very poor reasoning, no reasoning actually, unreasoned. There is a saying, the beginning of any philosophy class, you will be asked, and you will be told, why philosophy? And it says, the unexamined life is not worth living. We have an unexamined life, unexamined life. And then third, he says, our weaknesses, our raga dvesha. Our samsara is very clouded by our raga dvesha. Our own estimate of what we are and our very limited and distorted view of other people. And that's how we live in this world. That's why a lot of suffering is due to our own misunderstandings, our own limited, our own raga dvesha also actually. This is the world which has to be given up. Vivekananda says, give it up. The world which we have been thinking of so long, the world to which we have been clinging so long, it is a false world of our own creation. Give that up. Open your eyes and see that as such it never existed. It was a dream, Maya. Not that it doesn't exist, but not as we see it, not as we think about it. Then what exists really? What existed was the Lord Himself. It is He who is in the child, in the wife and in the husband. It is He who is in the good and in the bad. He is in the sin and in the sinner. He is in life and in death. A tremendous assertion indeed. What will be the result? If we even believe this and try to live accordingly. Actually, if you see it, of course, you will start living accordingly. You will be a Jivan Mukta. But even if you believe this, thus we avoid the dangers of life and its evils. Do not desire anything. That last part of the first mantra, Ma Gridha, do not desire. There is a Sanskrit word Gridra, which means vulture, vulture. And Sri Ramakrishna would say that one thing he couldn't stand was Pandits, who knew all the scriptures, who had great high philosophy, but he compared them to vultures. Why? They would fly very high, but their sharp this vision, their eyes are fixed on the ground, looking for a dead body to eat. Similarly, fly very high. I am pure consciousness. I am not born. I am not dying. But what do I want? Bank balance, money, and power, position, recognition, appreciation. These are the dead bodies which I am seeking. The vulture. And the Sanskrit word is gridra, which is related to the word used by the Upanishad. Gridha is to thirst after, is to uh, cast a desiring eye on the world. I want it, to exploit it for my own physical, mental, social aggrandizement, pleasure, and all that. What makes us miserable? The cause of all miseries from which we suffer is desire. You desire something and the desire is not fulfilled, the result is distress. If there is no desire, there is no suffering. But there is a danger of this being misunderstood. It is necessary to explain what I mean by giving up desire and becoming free from all misery. How? The walls have no desire and they never suffer. The walls have no desire and they never suffer, true, but they never evolve. This chair has no desires, but it never suffers, but it is always a chair. There is a glory in happiness, there is a glory in suffering. If I may dare to say so, there is a utility in evil also. In Vivekananda, one of his most eloquent phases, he says, as for me, I am glad I have done something good and many things bad. Glad I have done something right and glad I have committed many errors, because every one of them has been a great lesson. I, as I am now, am the resultant of all I have done, all I have thought. Every action and thought have had their effect, and these effects are the sum total of my progress. So, giving up desires is not the suicidal thing that I have to become like a wall or a chair. I'll just sit quietly. He says it is that suicidal advice, killing the desire and the man too, like the mosquito and his friend. He killed the friend also and the mosquito. What is the solution? What is true renunciation? Which is the message of the first mantra. Vivekananda says, the solution is this: not that you should not have prosperity, not that you should not have property, not that you should not have things which are necessary, and even things which are luxuries. Have all that you want and more. Only know the truth and realize it. Wealth does not belong to anybody. have no idea of proprietorship, possessorship. Here, he is giving the first interpretation given by Shankaracharya. It matches. You are nobody, nor am I, nor anyone else. All belongs to the Lord, because the opening verse told us to put the Lord in everything. God is in the wealth that you enjoy. He is in the desire that rises in your mind. He is in the things that you buy to satisfy your desire. He's talking about 100 years before Amazon Prime. He's talking about it. The things that you buy to satisfy your desire. There's God there. He is in your beautiful attire, in your beautiful ornaments. This is the line of thought. All will be metamorphosed as soon as you begin to see things in that light. This is crucial. If you put God in your every movement, in your conversation, in your form, in everything, the whole scene changes, and the world, instead of appearing as one of woe and misery, will become a heaven. So, first he's asking us to change our vision. Is he recommending that go ahead and live a life of hedonism? Not at all. He says once you change your vision, your life will also change. Not by on the surface forcing everything, throwing everything away, becoming like a wall or a chair. He speaks more about it. Work, action in this world. Ordinary mankind, driven everywhere by false desire, what do they know of work? The man propelled by his own feelings and his own senses, what does he know about work? He works who is not propelled by his own desires, by any selfishness whatsoever. He works who has no ulterior motive in view. He works who has nothing to gain from work, nothing personal to gain from work. And then he says, I have never read of any more beautiful conception of God than the following. He is the great poet, the ancient poet. The whole universe is his poem, coming in verses and rhymes and written in infinite bliss. When we have given, this is from the Upanishad, later it will come. When we have given up desires, then alone we shall be able to read and enjoy this universe of God. Then everything will become deified. Nooks and corners, byways and shady places which we thought dark and unholy will all be deified. They will reveal their true nature, and we shall smile at ourselves and think that all this weeping and crying has been but child's play, and we were only standing by watching. So the first mantra, he says, then Vivekananda says, the Vedanta first advises us how to work by giving up. Give up the apparent elusive world. What is meant by that? Seeing God everywhere. Thus do you work. Now notice carefully. Desire to live 100 years. Have all earthly desires. If you wish, only deify them. Convert them into heaven. Have the desire to live a long life of helpfulness, of blissfulness and activity on this earth. Thus working, you will find the way out. If a man plunges headlong into foolish luxuries of the world without knowing the truth, he has missed his footing, he cannot reach the goal. And if a man curses the world, goes into a forest, mortifies his flesh, and kills himself little by starvation, makes his heart a barren waste, kills out all feelings, and becomes harsh, stern, and dried up, that man also has missed the way. These are two extremes, the two mistakes at either end. Both have lost the way, both have missed the goal. So work, says Vedanta, putting God in everything and knowing Him to be in everything. Work incessantly, holding life as something deified, as God Himself, and knowing that this is all we have to do, this is all we should ask for. God is in everything. Where else shall we find Him? He is already in every work, in every thought, in every feeling. Thus knowing we must work. This is the only way, there is no other. Thus the effects of work will not bind us. Notice, he is translating the second mantra. effects of work will not bind us. We have seen how false desires are the cause of all misery and evil that we suffer. But when they are deified, purified through God, they bring no evil, bring no misery. Um, we are now dying of thirst, sitting in the banks of the mightiest river. We are dying of hunger, sitting near heaps of food. Here is the blissful universe, yet we do not find it. We are in it all the time, and we are always mistaking it. So, notice here two major differences. The similarity is also there. That the first, Īśavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat, is interpreted in the same way by Adi Shankara and Swami Vivekananda. That is the central teaching of the Upanishad. Is formal monasticism required? Shankaracharya seems to say yes. Swami Vivekananda seems to say no. And Swami Vivekananda opens it up for everybody. Whoever is in any position in this world can use Ishavasya Upanishad, the first mantra. Shankaracharya would say, no, no, no. If you are not willing to go through complete renunciation, including external renunciation, you need to come to the second mantra, which is lead a good life, a dharmika life here, do all the rituals, ethical life, and aim for heaven after death, and after rebirth, you will get a good human birth. So this is the goal of karma kanda. But you can see what Shankaracharya is doing here. See, remember, he has a very good justification. Remember, this is the 40th chapter in the Vedic text with 39 other chapters before it. In the Samhita, it is there. The 39 other chapters are dealing with rituals. So it is very natural that the 40th chapter also should say something about what went on earlier. So Shankaracharya is saying, whatever was mentioned earlier in those chapters, please follow that if you don't want enlightenment. Otherwise, what will happen? You'll be caught, you'll be destroyed by this machine of karma. If we do not lead an ethical life, if we do not lead a pious religious life, we will sink into an immoral life, unethical life, instinctive, animalistic life, and then we'll be crushed. After death, a hellish existence, and then rebirth in lower births, maybe human birth full of suffering, or maybe even animal or lower births. So to save yourself from that, lead a good ethical life here. And in the Vedic times, that was defined by the Vedic ritualism, karma kanda. Whereas Swami Vivekananda, notice, first mantra and the second mantra are in one flow. He does not divide the Upanishad into two parts. Shankaracharya clearly divides the Upanishad into two parts. He says, for those who are able, first mantra, become enlightened, be free. Those who are not able or they don't want that, those who want this world and the next world, second mantra, live a life of Vedic ritualism. Then he proceeds to divide the whole Upanishad into these two groups. Under first mantra, he puts the third mantra, fourth mantra, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. That is Vedanta, Brahmagyanas, Atmagyana. Vivekananda also will do that. But under the second mantra, Shankaracharya puts mantras from 9 to 18, and that he says is the life of karma kanda. Not that the two are completely separate. If you lead an ethical religious life, at one time one might get enough purification to be qualified for this first track. What Vivekananda has done, if you see here, realize you see God in everything, first mantra, and you can be engaged in life. That is the renunciation. The renunciation of the world is not just external renunciation. It is this very seeing God in everything is the renunciation. Deifying life is the renunciation. And then second mantra he interprets in the same flow. What will you do now? Having realized this, seeing God everywhere, renouncing the world by seeing God everywhere, be engaged in life. Live 100 years. 100 years is like a lifetime. And live a life, he says, of peace, of blissfulness, helpfulness, of activity. And in this way, you will escape from the law of karma. So you see, and then you will see Vivekananda later on also, we'll come back to it in future classes. The rest of the mantras also, from beginning till the very end, Vivekananda interprets in one line. Enlightenment, Brahmagyana, the first mantra, and then everything else. second, third, fourth, fifth. He does not divide into two parts. So this is a couple of the differences I wanted to bring to light. There are more difficulties ahead of us, but right now this much is enough. In the next class, we will again come back to Shankaracharya's commentary on the second mantra. What does he say about the second mantra? And then how does he take up the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth mantras? So according to him, third to eighth mantras are the core teachings of Vedanta, though for those like us who want enlightenment, freedom for them. One consequence of this way of dealing with it, Shankaracharya's way of dealing with the Ishopanishad is, in that case, for those who want enlightenment and freedom, like all of us here, then half of the Upanishad from mantra number 9 till 18 becomes irrelevant for us. It is not something that is meant for us. So these are some issues. Let me see. There are some questions and observances here. Kiran says, renunciation should result in vasanakshaya, which is required for liberation. Yes. Renunciation should result in vasanakshaya. He says it will all be purified. Vivekananda, you notice he used the word. But if you have this vision, if you shift your vision, no longer the desire will be for worldly pleasure, power, the kama, artha. Those will not be the desire anymore. Then it will become a life of blessedness, helpfulness, peace, joy. So it will become that. Rick Archer says, Musk has 13 children. I guess what he practices what he preaches. Yes, if he's worried about decline of population, he is fighting back against it by having lots of children. So Shankaracharya would say putraeshana, the desire for progeny. Sanket puts it as Shankara, Tyaga or Sannyasa is greater than the Vedic, the Karma Kanda goals, which is greater than the worldly goals which are born of desire. Correct. So better than being guided by lust and greed and and leading an animalistic life, just pleasure, power, wealth. Better than that is an ethical life, a religious life. That is higher. That is in the Karma Kanda of the Vedas. Higher than that is self-realization, Brahma Jnana. That is in the Jnana Kanda Upanishad, that is Vedanta. But it's not just Shankara. Swamiji is also saying the same thing. Swamiji is not saying that he is not saying that worldly goals or Karma Kanda is better than Vedanta or equal to Vedanta. He says Vedanta is greater than Karma Kanda, which is greater than worldly goals. However, what Swamiji is saying is that the Vedantic realization, all is Brahman, is equally possible for everybody. A monk can also have it, and the householder engaged in the world can also have it. You don't have to physically cut yourself off from the world. He says there's a great danger of misunderstanding this. The two misunderstanding, two extremes he talked about. One who plunges into trying to enjoy this world as much as possible, instinctively. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody tries that at the beginning. That's one false philosophy of life because it leads to unhappiness. The other kind of is I'll reject the world altogether. I will not engage with the world. I will minimize my activity and connection with the world. I will sit in a Himalayan cave or in a forest and um, so much of tapasya, of austerity, starving myself, and so that also will not lead to spirituality. This is something the Buddha also realized thousands of years ago. He says the veena, if you leave the strings untuned, untightened, you will not get any music. The strings are loose. And if you tighten it too much, if you tighten the string too much, it will snap. So leaving it loose is the indisciplined life of dissipation in the world. Tightening it too much is the hard austerity of the ascetic. Neither is likely to give you wisdom, enlightenment. Sanket says, Krishna in the Gita says, do your duty as yajna, but renounce both worldly and Vedic goals. Correct. And that is why the Upanishad and the Gita, they are in one line. Then Sonali says, how does Shankaracharya explain this is how you escape the clutches of karma in second mantra? If people are advised to form perform Vedic rituals and karmas. So there the answer will be, you escape from the clutches of bad karma, instinctive karma. If you do not lead an ethical life, if one does not make an effort to lead a good, decent, moral life, religious life, then one will succumb to one's desires. One will live a life prompted by raga dvesha, attraction and repulsion. Our default setting, whatever is in my subconscious, that will rule. Whatever I want, I will try to do that. So one might say, what's wrong with that? It will lead to unhappiness. It almost quickly leads to unhappiness. That's the strange thing. So our desires are not wise things. We should not be guided by desire. I want it. I feel this. So it's reality. No. I want it and I feel it. Those are feelings. Those are desires. That may not be reality. And then comes, and the sign of that is, sure sign of that is suffering. I felt like that and I acted according to my feelings. I wanted that and I chased it. So you should, if it was the right thing to do for you, you should have been happy. And I'm not. Somewhere I'm making a mistake. So that's why civilization evolved ethics, morality, religion, traditional religion, some form of decency and morality that will save you from the effects of instinctive karma, bad karma, karma born of raga dvesha. That will surely lead to suffering in this life and a hellish existence, naraka, after death. Shankaracharya says to escape from that, one must lead a ritualistic Vedic lifestyle or a moral life. God in Everything is a part of Jnana Yoga lectures by Swamiji. Yes, this is volume 2 of Swami Vivekananda's complete works in the Jnana Yoga. This is a lecture given in London. Sonali says, Swami Vivekananda pointing out the Karana Drishti or Tattva Drishti, to see God in everything. Yes, the Tattva Drishti, to see the reality in everything, to see the gold in all the ornaments. You don't have to throw away the ornaments to find the gold. You don't have to break the pottery to find the clay. That is knowledge. To say that only when I smash all the pots and there's a lump, that is the clay. No, no, no. When the pots are in their beautiful shape and you are using them as decoration in your home, or you're putting water in it or plants in it. So the name pot, the form of the pot and the use of the pot, all of those can continue with the knowledge that it is clay alone. So all of these worldly activities can continue, but not for the purpose of trying to fulfill yourself through those desires. Rather, seeing it as a divine play of one existence, consciousness, bliss, which is your own reality. Then everything is fine. You can be a monk, you can be a householder. Many of these rishis who have given out these Upanishads, they were householders. You can be a king like Raja Janaka. You can be a renunciate in an ashram or in a cave. That also is nothing wrong. You will be at ease wherever you are, in whatever circumstance you are. Gita says, is the difference of interpretation of these mantras based on difference in the times when they were written? Swamiji's interpretation being more conducive to present times? I think so, yes. And that's why, for example, Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva, serving all human beings, knowing them to be Shiva. Sri Ramakrishna said, worship God through service to all human beings, knowing them to be none other than Shiva. So you have hospitals, we have schools, colleges, and many other people do this. And they say, this is our spiritual practice. We are worshipping God in this way. But this follows directly from Swami Vivekananda's interpretation. But from Adi Shankaracharya's interpretation, it will not follow directly. You can stretch it and you can justify it also, but it's not a direct outcome of that. To make it more clear, we run so many schools, hospitals, so many service activities in India, many. And if you ask us monks, what exactly are you doing? Your service activities are not service activities for us. For us, we are practicing Vedanta. It is Ishavasya Sarvam. It is Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi. It is Pratibodha Viditam Matam. It is that one light shining in all beings. So this is practice of Vedanta for us. Now this reasoning, it comes from Vivekananda. Anu says, Why were the Upanishads written in such a cryptic way that can lead to different interpretations? Is it because Rishi's vision was of poetry as opposed to providing detailed explanation? The second thing is right, yes. It was a poetic outpouring of their realization. And so philosophy, like Shankara's Advaita Vedanta, or the new interpretations being given by others, Ramanuja and others, that comes later. Upanishad first, and then Darshana. Darshana is lower than Upanishad. Upanishad and Gita is of the same category also. The, why then Darshana is necessary? Because then you can see Upanishad is very broad. It makes very vast and sweeping observations and gives us insights. But it does not answer all questions and put it in a systematic logical form. It just gives you the insight of the rishis. But based on that, multiple philosophies can be generated. Yes, different time is definitely. Shankaracharya wrote it at least 1400 years ago. And Swami Vivekananda wrote it, um, gave this lecture just over 100 years ago in the modern world. So it's not a question of is this right or is this wrong? No, both are right, perfectly right. If you follow Shankara's interpretation strictly, will you attain enlightenment? Certainly. There's no doubt about it. So many have attained, why won't you? Ramya says, can you please share why they differ? Yes, this is why multiple interpretations are possible. When we, in our tradition, we generally use Shankara's commentary, but always remember there are multiple Vedanta schools and they differ even more widely than Swami Vivekananda. As I said, the senior monk told me he has come across 11 different commentaries, different interpretations of this first mantra itself. Parul has pointed out, does the word bhunjita have both meanings, enjoyment and renunciation, or detached enjoyment? You're right. That's why you have the two different interpretations. You can have protection, enjoyment and protection. So bhunjita means to protect, to preserve. Preserve what? Shankaracharya says, Atma Rakshita, protect yourself. Now self does not have to be preserved or protected. The real self, Satchidananda, does not have to be protected. What he means, the self-knowledge. This knowledge that Ishavasya Sarvam, Aham Brahmasmi knowledge. You protect it, you put a fence around it of tyaga, of renunciation. Don't pursue worldly goals anymore. Another meaning could be, which Swamiji has used. Bhunjita means to enjoy, to be engaged in this world. So bhuj. Now, Swamiji says if you try to enjoy with desires, samsara will be the result. But if you engage in the world, knowing it to be Brahman, that, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi, Ishavasya Sarvam, knowing that, and then engaging the world, seeing the divine, deifying the life itself, is a tremendous vision. With this vision, you plunge into the world, you will be fine. Sanket says, deifying the desires as per Swamiji has the danger of falling into desires and forgetting God. How to avoid this? Yes, one must not fall into the trap of justifying one's present lifestyle. Oh, I have deified the world. Why are you going and playing in Las Vegas casino? Why? Because I've deified it. So casino is also Brahman and gambling is also Brahman. No, inside I am being ruled by my own desires. So one must be sincere that way. And the world will teach us to be sincere. If I'm not sincere, if I say it's all Brahman, very quickly such kicks and blows will come from the world. I'll say this Brahman is not working for me. Priya says, does equanimity also mean balance? Does one need to know the extremes to understand balance? All teachers seem to point to that, the middle path in life. Yes, but be careful. Balance does not mean little of this or little of that. Ashokanji said once that you have a pot of nectar in one hand and a pot of poison. So be balanced. That means one sip of this and one sip of that. No, no, not like that. Little seeing Brahman in everything and little satisfying of some desires. No. Here balance means adopt the spiritual vision. Ishavasya idam sarvam. Deify life. See Brahman. At least try to understand and feel that Brahman is there in every action, in every person, everywhere that we go, every experience that we have, even this body, this mind. He says it's there in every thought, even in the desire. The desires will come. In the desire also, notice Brahman there. How we do that, of course, is all of Vedanta. Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, Avasthatara, all of them, they all point to that, how to discover Brahman there. Having this vision, then you continue with your life. Not balancing little bit of renunciation, little bit of bhoga, little bit of nectar, little bit of poison, not in that sense. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Oh, one question. Swami, can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Maharaj Pranam. Uh, Maharaj, how do we know the difference between awareness of mind and awareness of consciousness? Like how the mind is aware of something, how
Yes.
is it different from awareness of consciousness?
When the mind is aware of something, when the mind is aware of something means when there's a thought in the mind. Right now I'm aware of ABCD, or right now I'm aware of looking at this computer, I'm getting a visual perception, I'm listening to the your words. So auditory visual perception is there, mind is objectifying this, vrittis are coming in the mind, and all of that is illumined by the reflected consciousness in the mind. This is what we mean by mind being aware of it. But when objects are presented through the senses, through the mind, to consciousness, consciousness illumines all of it. So whenever we have any kind of experience through the mind, even the worldly experiences, sensory experience, or in the mind, thought, memory, desire, understanding, remembering, forgetting, enjoying, suffering, waking, dreaming, sleeping, all of these are mediated through the mind. All of them are continuously being illumined by consciousness. That's what you call your experience. So what does it mean, illumined by consciousness? All our experiences. And what does it mean that awareness in the mind? It is when the mind has vrittis and we experience the vrittis of external stimuli or also objects in the mind. Is this what you are asking?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes,
Okay.
Maharaj. This is what I. Maharaj,
Yes.
one last question. Last question. Um, Maharaj, if Brahman is Nishkriya, then
Yes.
how can it be the knower? Isn't knowing also an action?
Yes. Homework for you. Think about it. Two
Oh,
words I will give you. You have to work it out. Sakshi and Pramata. Witness consciousness and the knower. Pramata is the knower. Pramata means the one who knows using instruments of knowledge. And Sakshi is the witness consciousness. Distinguish between these two, we will get your answer. So,
okay.
Brahman, what you asked about Brahman, that is the Sakshi. And you'll see, what does Sakshi do? Is it an action? Or is it his very nature to shine as light, as consciousness? But knowledge is certainly an action. Where does the action lie? Does the action lie in consciousness? Or does the action lie in the mind and the senses, in the body? Very good.